Hello, good evening, and welcome. I'm John Lazarus with Stories Matter and D&D Publishing. Do you ever find that you feel like you're doing really well, but when you get to the end, what you finished with didn't really pack any punch? It wasn't what you were hoping for, and everyone walks away unsatisfied? Okay, now what about as a writer instead of a sexual partner? Disappointment is a fact of life most writers have grown accustomed to. We disappoint our bosses by spending most of our time doing edits instead of correctly filing prescription orders. We disappoint our countrymen by crashing from the amphetamines we took for a writing marathon, sleeping 24 hours straight, and forgetting to vote. We disappoint our wives by sleeping with our girlfriends. We disappoint our girlfriends by sleeping with our mistresses. And we disappoint our mistresses by calling them the names of our wives or girlfriends or sex addiction therapist. And all of that is okay. In real life, being a disappointment is nothing to be disappointed about. After all, none of this matters, and the universe will end in heat death trillions of years from now, having not acknowledged our existence at all. However, in your fiction, it does matter. You could write a wonderful book with vivid, relatable characters, tense conflict, and lyrical prose. But if the climax disappoints, all of that will be forgotten, and you'll probably be harassed so badly on social media you'll have to move to a new town. What a climax really is you fulfilling a promise to your reader, at least the ones who paid money to read your book. In keeping with this theme, I will slowly tease out the story of how I met my second wife, and climax with a graphic story of the first time we boned. Obviously, I realize you could just skip to that point in the video by clicking ahead, but we'll ignore that for now. We'll totally not blow it on this edition of Stories Matter. Today's video is brought to you by the John Lazarus Portable Massage Rod for Women. Sometimes we need a climax in our own life, but we don't have the 10 hours it takes to read an entire novel. The John Lazarus Massage Rod is fitted with 10 vibrational modes that offer a quick climax you can easily fit into your lunch break or afternoon commute. The John Lazarus Massage Rod is also waterproof, it's based off my own personal measurements, and it's equipped with audio functions so you can hear readings from my classic novels like Chair, Hung Jury, and The Altar Boy, while you reach your climax. Due to limited supply, send an email to this address to request an order. Now, you might assume that the climax of a story is somewhere in the middle, as this terrible graph by Freytag seems to indicate. But as we talked about before on this channel, Freytag was speaking about classic Greek drama, and he was mostly concerned with exterminating Polish people. In modern literature, a climax is basically what we think of as the end, where the main problem is resolved and all the tension you've been building to is released. If the sex metaphors make you uncomfortable, you can think of it this way. The climax is the point in the party where everyone's already arrived, the awkwardness has faded, and the conversation is flowing naturally, but before the cops arrive or the guy you didn't invite pukes on your rug. Or, if you're an American, you can also think of the climax as the 90s in general. Now, pulling off a good climax can be tricky business. Aside from not having an interesting name, a weak climax is the main reason I reject a prospective author's manuscript. Here's some tips to remember. Mistake 1. Neglecting character transformation. Remember, a story isn't about the things that happen. It's about how the things that happen change your character. Your climax isn't about the character defeating the villain. It's about the character learning that, to defeat evil, you might have to break your moral code and push the villain in the wheelchair down the stairs. When I met the woman who became my second wife, I was much too trusting, which is how I ended up marrying a woman who was a serial bigamist. But as you'll see, not trusting people is what led me to my second wife. Mistake 2. Substituting a climax for a cliffhanger. Now, don't get me wrong, a cliffhanger can be a great thing in real life. Having a workforce that was never sure whether or not they'd receive a Christmas bonus has made for great productivity. But a story needs to be complete. I don't have time to read your whole series. In fact, the only things I'll read are your name, your first sentence, your climax, and, time permitting, your social media feed to make sure there's nothing about NAMBLA on it. Today's story won't end on any cliffhangers. My second wife and I met at Disney World. I was supposed to take my firstborn son, who was 7 at the time, but he fell ill with the flu, so I went by myself. She first caught my eye when I noticed her photo when I was looking at pictures of Splash Mountain. It was then that I knew I needed to have her. Mistake 3. Not using a crucible. A climax should feel unavoidable. It should be destiny. It should feel the way I felt when my dad locked me in a room with a hired prostitute at 18 to turn me into a man. A crucible, in literary terms, is an inescapable situation for your characters. It should be a combination of the choices they've made along the way and outside pressures. In The Lord of the Rings, Frodo is constantly compelled to Mordor for the climax. As Tolkien tells it, only Frodo can bring the ring there. In my story, Heartland, the main character is the only one with 2 hearts, and therefore is the only one who can be a donor for the ailing mayor. With Cindy, things felt unavoidable for a variety of reasons. When I first introduced myself, it turned out she actually knew my work, even though I was just a minor success at the time. To add to that, we got put on the It's a Small World ride alone, and the boat broke down. Mistake 4. Using cheats. Deus ex machina is one of the most common kinds, but there are lots of similar cheats. Basically, any surprise you introduce in the climax must be at least hinted at some earlier point in the story. Think of the stupid fucking ghost army in Lord of the Rings, or Batman's utility belt in the otherwise logical, measured 1966 version of Batman. So if I hadn't mentioned that Cindy was already a fan of mine, or hadn't shown you the John Lazarus massage rod, the following scene might be a little cheap. So anyway, it started with Cindy. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll leave you with this week's This Day in Literary History. See you on the next one.